everyone, and welcome back to the Stitch Sessions. I've got an extra fun crochet tutorial for you today. If you're new here, I'm Karen, and I'm so glad to have you join me today. I love all things to do with crochet and crafting with crochet, and I'm always looking for different ways on how we can use this beautiful art form. And to my regular wonderful faithfuls, welcome back. I always love having you guys come and join me every week. So let's dive right in. This week, we are going to work on creating a little dream catcher. So you can see I've got one already made here. And so I was experimenting with creating just kind of like a little circular motif. And then I thought this would look really pretty as a dream catcher or some kind of wall art. Sometimes I see little mini ones used dangling in people's dashboards of their cars. I thought you could do so much with this, and you see a lot of these done in macrame and things like that. And I thought, I bet you we could crochet this. So this was kind of the initial design for it. It's very simplistic, just kind of a circular motif. And then I got a ring, a craft ring, and I decided to place it on the ring, and I just love how it came out. So it's not difficult, but it's a little finicky once we start kind of stretching our motif on the ring. So basically I would say it's not hard, but you've got to have a little bit of patience just to kind of hang in there in the final round to get your motif to sit nicely. So I think you'll really enjoy this. So let's check out all of the things you're going to need to create your dream catcher, and let's get started. Okay, so the first thing, in order to give your dream catcher some structure, you're going to want to have a craft ring. Now, I have craft rings here that are 5 inches in diameter, which is approximately 12 centimeters. Now, I found these on Amazon, and I'm sure you can find these at any of your local craft stores or even something like a Walmart in the craft section. You can make yours smaller if you want once you get the idea of how to create yours, but if you're going to follow along with me, I'm using a 5-inch craft ring. So that's the first thing you're going to want to have. And then the yarn I'm using is some leftover cotton cakes yarn, and projects like this are fantastic for using up your scrap. So if you're always looking for some great scrap projects, this would be fantastic. So I love using cotton cakes for things like wall art and things like that, just because it is a higher blend of cotton with the acrylic in here. So that's what I've got here. And I forget what these all came from the same cake because the colorway changes. I think it was called driftwood, but I don't believe that they make this particular colorway in the cotton cakes anymore. But it doesn't really matter. As you guys are always usually very creative, you can use whatever colorways you like. You can make it all one color, by the way. I just chose to have this contrasting situation. So the hook I'm going to be using for this project is going to be a 6mm hook, also known as a J, or a size 10, okay? And then of course you always want to make sure that you've got your yarn needle on hand so you can sew in all of your ends, and a handy pair of scissors to snip off your yarn. And by the way, I didn't mention this, but this is considered a medium 4-weight yarn. You can certainly use a lightweight number 3, which would be really nice because then you can create a bigger circle in the same 5-inch ring. I don't know if I would use a bulky. It starts kind of losing the essence of the shaping you want it to, but anywhere between a medium 4 all the way down to a fine weight number 1, I think would be really, really cool. All right, let's get started creating our motif. Okay, so what we're going to do here is we're going to start from the center and work our way out. And then for the final round, that is when we're going to pick up our ring and then crochet our motif to the ring, which some people might work the opposite way. They might start by crocheting around the ring first and then work decreases going inward. Some people say that it's a little easier to kind of gauge your size. For me, I found it was a little easier to figure it out the opposite way, believe it or not, because I knew that this was very stretchy. So you see, this is when it's not on the ring, and it looks slightly different because this has stretched a bit, but essentially that is what you want. So off of the ring, when I measured this, this was 4 inches across, which is about 10 centimeters. And so I knew I wanted a ring that was slightly larger so that it could give a little bit of stretch. And that's why I went for the 5-inch ring. So for those of you that want to vary your size, that's kind of what I would keep in mind. Whatever the motif you create, I would always get like an extra inch in diameter to create a stretch. If not more, like if you wanted it to stretch more, I would get a little bit bigger. So that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna create a ring first, then we are gonna crochet from the inside going out. Kind of like if you are familiar with granny squares, we start from the center and work our way out. So that's what we're gonna do here. So we're gonna start off, first of all, with the slightly darker color. And we're going to begin by creating a slip knot on our hook. So we're going to create our ring a little bit different than I usually do. A lot of you guys that know me know I like to use cinch circles for circular projects most of the time. But there are moments when I'll use a chain circle or a chain ring. So what we're going to do here is I'm actually going to chain 6. 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Once you have your chain of 6, you want to find the very first chain and you're just going to slip stitch into it. Just like that. See how it creates a ring? Then what we're going to do is we're going to chain 1 and we're going to go into the ring and place a single crochet. So that chain 1 just was there to give us some height. Then what we're going to do is we're going to chain 1 and go back into the ring and single crochet. Just like that. And chain 1. So you're going to do this a total of 12 times. So I've already done a single crochet, chain 1, single crochet, chain 1. So I need to do this 10 more times. And don't worry if you find that it looks like it's not going to fit anymore. Just push these back and you'll be able to fit your 12 in there. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and do 10 more of these and I'll meet up with you at the end of this first round. Okay, so I've completed my sets of 12 single crochets and chain 1s. And don't worry, it's probably going to buckle a little bit. That's totally fine. Remember, this is going to get stretched. So now what we want to do is we just want to find the top of that first single crochet and we just want to slip stitch to join our round. So right there, going to have to help it along a little bit. And you're going to slip stitch, okay? And that is round 1 complete. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to snip this color off. I'm going to chain 1 and fasten. Okay, so our first round is done. You've got something that looks like this. Now don't worry if you're thinking, well, how the heck can I find these chain 1s? They can be a little tricky, but it's not really about the chain 1. It's just so that we had a little bit of extra space. See that? A little bit of extra space between our single crochets. If you ever kind of get confused, like where the heck is the space? Just remember that a single crochet has 2 legs or 2 vertical loops. So that's a single crochet. So if you can just separate every second leg, there we go. See, the spaces will show themselves because round 2, we're going to be working into all of these spaces. So now I'm going to take my next color and we're going to begin round 2. Okay, so I'm going to make this one a little different. I'm going to go right away into the lighter yarn, whereas before I left the lighter one further to the outside. So with this one, again, you're going to place a slip knot on your hook. And this time we're going to find a space, and I always like to start a little bit away from the original knot. I'm going to find a chain 1 space right there. And we're going to slip stitch to join our yarn to the ring. Just like that. You're then going to chain 4. I'm just going to give a little bit of difference here. So chain 4, then go back into that same space and double crochet. So what this does is it creates a V stitch. So 3 of these chains will count as a double crochet. the fourth chain will count as a chain one space. And then we're going to double crochet into that space. So what I did here, it's the same number of stitches, but what I had done in this particular motif is that I had done 2 double crochets together and then I chained one in between them. But just to give a slightly different look, I'm just going to change where I place the chain one. So just in case you ever see these two motifs side by side. So now what we're going to do is we're going to find the next space, look at it right there, and I'm going to place a V-stitch there. So I'm going to insert my hook, I'm going to place a double crochet, I'm going to chain one and put another double crochet right back into that same space. So in this case, you can see that it creates a little bit more of a lacy effect earlier on in the motif. That's basically what you're going to do into every single chain one space. That would be the next one there. And you should still have 12 sets of these V-stitches. Okay, so we had 12 sets of single crochet chain one. Now we're going to have 12 sets of V-stitches. Isn't that pretty? So go ahead and do that all the way around, and I'll meet up with you at the end of round 2 to begin round 3. Okay, we're at the end of round number 2, and you can see, yes, it is buckling. Do not panic. That's all going to work out. So I've just finished my last V, and now what I want to do is I want to find the third chain here, the top of the third chain, and I'm going to slip stitch into that chain to join my round. And this time I'm not going to snip off my yarn just quite yet. Okay. And then I just double checked that I had 12 sets of V-stitches and I still have my sets of 12. So it buckles like that when you place too many stitches in the round. And the only reason why that's happening is because a lot of times this first ring is not large enough. And so because we placed a chain one, an extra chain one between all the stitches, it creates extra stitches. But in our case, we're going to be stretching this. So this works out just fine. Okay. So we're going to move on to round 3, but we're still going to keep the same color. And what I want to do is I'm actually just going to slip stitch into the center of this first V-stitch here. And then I'm going to go over into the very next stitch and slip stitch into the stitch that sits next to it. And so what that does is it positions us nicely between these two V-stitches. Now some people might think that we did that back here, but we were more on top of the stitch, so that's why I like to move over here. So what we're going to do now is we are going to chain 4. 1, 2, 3, and 4. And then we're going to move over, we're going to skip this V-stitch and into the next stitch. So essentially we're skipping 2 stitches. So we've gone into this stitch, we're going to skip the chain 1 and the next stitch, and into the third stitch we're going to place a single crochet. So see how that looks like we've skipped that V-stitch completely? There we go. So it creates like a little arch over the V-stitch. And that's what we're going to do for every set. So we're going to chain 4 again. 1, 2, 3, 4. We're going to, remember, we've already worked into this stitch, so we're going to skip the chain 1, and we're going to skip the next stitch. Remember, the loops always sit to the right of the stitch on the right side. And then we're going to go into the following stitch and single crochet. Chain 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, skip 2 stitches, 1 and 2, and into the third, we're going to single crochet. So that third stitch always sits on the right side of the V-stitch. So I've done a few here, so you should be able to see now. Just creates these little arches above the V-stitches. Okay, so go ahead and do that all the way to the end. Now I'll meet you at the end of round 3. Okay, so I have my last V-stitch here. I just wanted to mention something. I'm going to just take this out. Remember here, we slip stitched to join our previous round and then we slip stitched over. So you're gonna notice that it's probably gonna feel a little tighter to place a single crochet there. So don't panic, you are in the right spot. It's just gonna feel a little bit tighter. So just remember, it's the right side of that V and you just wanna help it along, just like that. And single crochet. And now I've got one more V to go through here. It's gonna chain 4, 1, 2, 3, and 4. And now what I'm gonna do is I'm just going to slip stitch to join my round, just like that. Okay, you can see the arches there. And now I'm going to snip my yarn and fasten off. And round 3 is complete. Okay, so now we're going to go into round number 4 and I'm going to pick up another color. Okay, so I have this little bit more of a beigeier color. So again, I'm going to place a slip knot on my hook. And I'm going to find a spot that I want to start with. And you can weave in your ends as you go. I'm just going to leave mine to the end. So hopefully that doesn't distract you, but I'm just going to find somewhere completely different. So I'm going to find this space here. So now what we're going to do is we are going to work into these chain spaces and start to attach our motif to our ring. So first thing we want to do is we want to just find a space and we want to actually place a single crochet. So this time, instead of pulling the loop and continuing to pull it through, see how there's 2 loops? I'm going to yarn over and actually single crochet that. Okay, so now we've attached our yarn to the motif and now we're going to chain 3. So we have 1, 2, and 3. Okay, and now we're going to pick up our ring, and this is where it may be a little finicky. So just be patient. So you've got your ring here. And so you see essentially what we're doing is we're going to crochet and attach as we go. So I want to take my ring, I want to place it behind my motif. And those of you that saw my rope rug tutorial, it's a similar idea. You had the rope underneath and then you reached under the rope to stitch. This one we have a ring. So you want to reach under the ring in order to yarn over and pull up a loop. And see how that's going to trap that in there? And then I yarn over and I pull it through both loops. Now this is the part that might drive you a little wonky because it's kind of flopping all over the place. And you might, as you go along these first few rings, you might feel like, wow, it's really scrunching up to one side, but I promise you it's going to stretch out. Once you've single crocheted, we're now just going to chain 2, 1 and 2. Then we go back down to our motif, and this is where you want to be careful it doesn't start to twist around. You always want to have the right side facing up. I'm going to go into the next chain loop here. I'm going to insert into that loop and I'm going to single crochet to attach there. So we're going to go back and forth between attaching to the ring and then to the motif. Now see how this is flopping out here? This is where confusion can happen. So make sure that you're always aware that your motif is sitting in front. From here, I'm going to chain 3 again. 1, 2, 3. I'm going to pick up that ring. And now I'm going to single crochet around the ring. So that means, let me just do that again. I'm going to reach under the ring, or into the ring, I should say, in order to pick up a loop. I'm then going to pull it through. Got 2 loops. And I'm going to yarn over and pull through like a single crochet. Just like that. See how it secures it to the ring? Then I'm going to chain 2. 1, 2. I'm going to pick back up this motif and I'm going to single crochet into the chain loop, the next chain loop. So it's kind of like a join as you go method for those of you that love doing a lot of granny square motifs. It's like a join as you go method. So see, we chain 3, single crochet to the ring, chain 2, single crochet to the loop, chain 3, single crochet to the ring, chain 2, single crochet to the loop. So you can see that that's what causes these chain loops to then stretch to be a little bit more like a diamond shape. That's what you're going to do for every single loop. And as you come to here, see, this will naturally stretch in the right spot. So don't worry, these first few are going to make you feel like, wow, this is really scrunched to that side. Don't panic. It will all work out. I promise you. I would never steer you wrong. Okay, let me do this one more time for you guys before I set you loose. So we're going to chain 3, 1, 2, and 3. We're going to pick up our ring, single crochet to the ring, pull through. Then we're going to chain 2, 1 and 2, and now into the next chain loop, we're going to single crochet there. Just like that. Okay. All right, guys. I am going to leave you here now. I have faith in you. You're going to do it. It's going to be a-okay. And you might even surprise yourself at the fact that it might be easier than you think it is. So I'm going to get you to finish the whole ring, and then I'm going to meet up with you when you're ready to join your round. Okay, guys, so I just single crocheted from my last loop, and now I've come back to the very first one, right? So I've done my chain 2, and remember we had already done a single crochet to begin. So all we're going to do is we're going to reach down into the top of that single crochet, and we are just going to slip stitch to join our round. Just like that. And then I'm going to chain 1. See how it all has to stretch? It has no choice, because when you come back around, your stitches will have to stretch. So I'm going to chain 1. I'm going to snip off my yarn. And round number 4 is complete. Okay. So then what I like to do, because I had a starting tail here, and this is the ending tail, so just turn it to the back. And I'm just going to make a little knot to tie these two together. Now what's going to be interesting about sewing in these ends is really you're sewing into chains. So I know people are going to go, there's nowhere for me to sew into, but really you can sew into your chains and around. Or what you can do is just triple knot it here or quadruple knot it. I like to knot a knot for security, and then just snip your yarn, you know, fairly close to the edge, not too close because you don't want it to unravel. But again, this is technically considered the back side if you're just going to place it on a wall or something, so nobody's really going to see it. So our Dreamcatcher motif is actually done. If you wanted to leave yours like this with the ring showing, you can place a hook on it, or you can crochet a loop like I did here, and you are good to go. I mean, these both look really, really pretty. Depending on what the look is you're going for. I actually, funny enough, I was looking for a gold ring because I love the look of the gold coloring a little bit better, but I just couldn't find it in the 5-inch ring. There's a lot of gold rings, craft rings in other sizes, but in the end, it doesn't really matter because I ended up covering it with some yarn. So I am going to go ahead and cover this one. So if you're interested in covering yours and continuing on to create the loop, then stick around for round number 5, and we're going to pick up yet another color to do the final round. Okay, so I'm going to take my next color here, and I am going to place a slip knot on my hook. And before I came back, I just made sure I wove in all my ends here. That way it wouldn't be too confusing for you guys. So now you're just going to find any space here in between your single crochets, and you are going to single crochet to join your yarn. So I'm not just going to use a slip stitch. I'm actually going to single crochet. So I'm going to pull up the loop. See, so I went into the ring. That gives me 2 loops, and then I yarn over, pull through, and that creates an actual single crochet. And now we begin. So what we're going to do is in these spaces, we are going to place 6 single crochets in total. So I've already done one. So I'm always going to reach in to that space here, pull up a loop and single crochet. So that's 2. And that's 3. This is always the part that's finicky because you've got to hold kind of 2 different things at one time. And then here is 4 and 5. And by the way, it will feel kind of loosey-goosey. That's the way it's supposed to be. Okay. And 6. So the idea here is we're not looking to jam the ring tight up with stitches. We just want it to sit nice and relaxed. So the fact that the ring shows through is no problemo. We want these stitches to sit nicely. Okay, so now we've come to our first single crochet. What we're going to do is most of these single crochets are quite spaced out here because of how they were worked from a chain going in to a chain going out. So we are going to place our 7th single crochet in between these 2 legs here. Okay, and then single crochet as usual. And what that does is it helps to anchor that particular point to the general ringed round of stitches, if that makes sense. So now it's definitely nestled in. If it moves, it's going to move in the same spacing. So you're not going to get like 2 stitches on one side, 5 stitches on the other. Okay, and that's what you're going to do for every little set of spaces here. So now we come to the next space. We're going to place 6 single crochets into that space. So there's 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Okay, and now we're going to go, the 7th one is always going to go inside the legs of that single crochet, and you will single crochet just like that. Okay, now be careful, we'll twist a little bit, so just keep adjusting it. You always want your loops to sit along the top. And that's basically it. You're going to do that for every single little space here until you come back up to the beginning. And I'll meet up with you there. And we're just going to talk about creating our little hanging loop. And then you are pretty much good to go. Okay, so I've completed the stitching around my whole ring. And I'm just making sure that it all sits nice and even. So you can see how gorgeous that looks. Love it. So what I'm not going to do in this last one is I'm not going to place that last single crochet into that stitch. I'm just going to ignore it. I'm going to go into the very first single crochet. I'm just going to ignore that knot there. And I'm going to slip stitch to join my round. Okay, just like that. Now, by the way, if you did not want to crochet your loop, some people will place like a nice ribbon, a really pretty little bow on there to hang. Totally up to you. I'm going to continue on and create our chain loop, which is super easy. We're now just going to chain up 20 chains. 1, 2, 3. Okay, once I have my 20 chains, now just going to leave a little bit of a tail, and I'm going to snip my yarn. I would say, let's say 6 inches. That might be excessive, but I always like to have extra. And all I'm going to do is I'm just going to pull that through. And now we are just about done. So I'm going to take my yarn needle and I'm going to thread this through here. Okay. And what I want to do actually is now I want to come back. See how that was where we slip stitched? I'm going to come back closer to where that last single crochet is, and I'm just going to insert my hook there, that loop and that loop, and I'm going to pull it through, and that's what's going to just anchor in the loop there, just like that. Okay, so that to me now secures. I like the fact that it's centered on the loop, and then you can pull it in a little bit tighter if you like. And now I'm just going to go back and forth. So in from behind, and then I'm going to do this to just create a little bit of a knot. And I'm going to do it nice and tight. See how that is showing? I do not like that. So I'm going to, there we go. Don't be afraid to cinch it nice and tight. And then just continue going back and forth. In fact, I'm going to come through here and I'm going to pick up this first loop so that it's actually coming from the loop and then going back in there. So there's no particular science to this little part here. This is just what I like to do, but you'll know what you like and what looks good to you. So see, I like doing that so that gets cinched in together just like that. Okay, I'm just going to do this a few more times and then I'm going to knot this together. This was that first tail, and then I'm going to weave in my ends and I'm pretty much going to be done my dream catcher. I love it. Okay, I'll meet you back here. I'll meet you guys back here in a second. Okay, guys, and here it is, my dream catcher. I actually really like how this one turned out. This one was a slightly lighter peachy color from another Caron cake that I had left over. And in fact, if you're curious what I use this yarn for, I used this in last year's beach series in one of the projects. It was the Loops and Arrows Beach Throw, and that was December's project. So I'll leave a link for that in the description box down below if you're interested. The yarn creates a really lovely blanket. The feel of it is fantastic for blankets and afghans. So in case you're wondering, you can check that out there. But here is our dream catcher. I just love this. It's so beachy. It's very summery. So I know sometimes we're looking for summer specific crochet projects. If you've got a cottage and you're looking to add some decor on the walls or on your windows, these would be fantastic. And like I said, you can make smaller ones for the dash of your car. I really am happy with how this turned out. I know I sound really giddy, but sometimes when I see my ideas come to life and they turn out kind of better than I thought they would, I get really excited. So I hope you enjoyed this tutorial and you found it a little different and interesting. If you have any further questions about this or any other project, as I always say, please do leave them for me in the comment box down below. And some of you like to email me directly, which I love as well. So you can just pop me an email at info@crochetcrafty.com, and I will be very happy to answer any questions that you have. And you know the drill. Come visit me on the website, crochetcrafty.com. Sign up for my newsletter. I give away a free written pattern every month. And if you are new here and you like what you see, make sure to press the subscribe button and stay up to date. I upload a brand new video every Wednesday morning. And give me a thumbs up if you want to see more projects like this. That way I know to continue creating the stuff that you like to see. So I always appreciate you guys coming and hanging out with me. Thank you so much for continuing to support my crochet journey. If you are interested in just offering a little extra support, you can also click the thanks button down below this video. It's just a little way if you wanted to give a small donation, something as little as $2, it would be greatly appreciated. It helps to continue to fund me getting better camera equipment. I want to make sure that these tutorials are nice and clear for you, getting more yarn, that kind of stuff. But as always, there's no obligation. I'm very appreciative of the fact that you guys come and hang out with me every week. And come say hi to me. I'm on the socials at Facebook and Instagram. Thanks so much, guys. I hope you have an amazing week. Take good care of yourselves. Enjoy the summer. Happy crocheting, and I will see you guys in next week's session. Take care.